to a brother who gave much love to the music. He gets much respect. Can you dig it?
Hey, here we are again. It's the Michael P. America Show, and yes, we are in the 24th hour. We are still doing that series, and it's about the death of American democracy. And speaking about death, I've got a very interesting thing that I'd like to start off with, and I think we've all heard this before, but remember, it's a possibility we don't remember all of this stuff. So, before we get into that, before I play this little special thing for you, we know it's the 24th hour. We just watched ICE, Jonathan Ross of ICE, in my opinion, murder Renee Good. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the things that are happening in Minneapolis and basically all over the country. So what's going on right now is impacting the entire country. We've had a lot of protests, not just in Minnesota, but in various states, California, Illinois, Oregon. They're all joined up with Minnesota. People are getting fed up. But we need to get fed up a little bit more faster, or we need to speed this up. Because they do have an agenda. And their agenda is basically called spectacle. So they hit you with all these spectacles, they create all this chaos, and they've got you fighting all these battles while they, as my friend likes to say, they operate sleight of hand. So you're looking one way, they're hitting you somewhere else. We already know they're grifting. And we're talking about the current administration. They're lackeys or drones, whatever you want to call them. Since we're in the tech age, we're going to call them drones because they don't think for themselves. They don't want to think for themselves. They don't want to be accountable. And when it's all said and done, they're going to blame Trump for doing the things that they themselves wanted to do. Yeah, think about it. We do have to understand that there are some people in this country that are just rotten. We can't say that all Americans are great and wonderful because we know that. We see people killing each other every day for nothing. For life insurance. for a few dollars here and there. Some people even a nickel. They've been psychologically and morally degraded to the point to where they don't understand the value of life, of human nature, So, we are going to have these conversations. I think I was just going to slide my cup into view, seeing that the Michael P. America was kind of, it's just a cup of water, lemon water. But I think we need to understand, where all this is going. And I got to tell you, they're calling her a domestic terrorist. And, I'm a little salty about this, maybe more. I was salty before with George Floyd because I do have a history with Minneapolis. That's Minneapolis, St. Paul, Twin Cities, one of my hometowns. Yeah, because I lived in two different cities simultaneously. And, up until 1999, I was there in Minneapolis. And so I know Minneapolis better than Most people in Minneapolis know it. I know the good, the bad, the ugly. I know it really well. I know more about, certain celebrities and famous celebrities that you're never going to hear the side of the story that I would tell. And I may never tell these stories. I know all about corruption in all the cities in the United States because I took time to study it and I saw some of it, right in front of me. And corruption is everywhere. And it is tolerated by governments everywhere. And the wealthy, it starts with the wealthy. And then it trickles down. And then the people that get caught, those are the little guys. Nothing happens in this country, especially in this country, unless somebody on top is making a lot of money. So you just need to know that. They might catch these little guys or these guys that you think are just a little bit bigger than you, but the big dogs, they're not going to jail. They usually end up just dying off or killing each other, mostly killing each other, because ultimately they all want to rule, and that's how that really works. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the murder, and I say murder, and I believe she was targeted. I believe she was targeted. Just when you look at the video, they didn't target, they did not target her companion, or if you want to call her mate, or her wife, or whatever you want to call her. They didn't target her. And she actually stood toe to toe, spoke to them directly, eye contact, and let them know exactly what time it was. They didn't go for her. They went for Renee Good. And when you watch the officer who pulled the trigger, remember there was one car that was already blocking the path, and there was no way she was going anywhere. Not in that direction unless she went around. So yeah, they closed in on her, pulled the car to stop her, with the intention of shooting her. They were going to shoot her. That's how that was going down. And they made sure that they shot her. That's my opinion. That's what I see. What idiot, and if they're going to call themselves an officer of the law, is going to stick themselves in front of a car? And he didn't do that. He walked around the car once he blocked the car off. He walked around and then off to the side. I'm surprised there weren't any ambulance chasers there going, hey, we saw what you did. Do you need a lawyer? No, because he's already protected by the federal government, so he thinks. He thinks he's going to get immunity. And these ICE guys, where are they getting these ICE guys from? Oh, come on, it's Proud Boys. It's the insurrection people. You know that. That's why these guys are wearing masks, because they don't want to show up on anybody's radar. This is part of spectacle. This administration that we're dealing with is all about chaos and spectacle. Because it keeps you confused. And then they come out with their speaking points. And, this is where we have this real problem in this country. These speaking points on you got a left and you got a right. And meanwhile, we're watching our U.S. Constitution slip away. You look at the Supreme Court, and you can tell that there's a majority of those guys that are doing the bidding of the wealthy. The wealthy would love nothing more than have this country fall. Why do you think Elon Musk is walking around carrying a sink? Oh, I'm going to, clean house and X. Nobody needs to see John Wayne. John Wayne was fictitious. These guys, as they said in, what was that, Enter the Dragon? Yeah. Come straight out of a comic book. They really do. And they're going to tell you they come up with all these great ideas. Well, they're taking everybody else's ideas. They can afford to buy the ideas. And what ideas they don't buy, they steal. And they really don't want to pay anybody. Scientists die all the time. And then this whole joke about drugs. They're in Venezuela for drugs? Most of the fentanyl comes from China. Oh, yeah. I've already done a story on them. And I've got the graphs and everything. Most of the fentanyl comes from China. Then here's the kicker. The fentanyl comes from China, processed. Excuse me, I jumped a step in the chain here. Comes from China, a lot of it, and then the United States sends it to Mexico to process it, and then it gets sent back to the United States once it's processed as fentanyl. Yeah, that's right. Venezuela? Okay, if you want to get into South America, the way they got into the drug trade was because of the CIA was going after all the Nazi scientists and sending them there and creating their labs. And that's why you had all this cocaine processing and stuff coming out of South America. Did a story on that too. And I'm not the only one. These stories are out there. These are real stories. These are legit. They're vetted. The wealthy have been drugging the world forever. They're making money off of it. All the addicts and stuff and all the, the elements that, people get sick from, all these drugs and drug abuse and, organ failure and all kinds of things. They make a ton of money off of you being sick. They make more money off of you being stupid. And I don't mean to call you stupid, but the reality is if you're not willing to understand who your enemy is and what they're capable of, if you want to live in la la land believing in stuff that doesn't exist, or that's not real, it's pretty stupid. You got to ask yourself why this country could never stamp out drugs. Well, because the people in power are bringing it in. There's so many stories. So much that's hit the press. I mean, Iran Contra. I mean, Ricky Ross. Or Rick Ross, excuse me, or Freeway, whatever you want to call him. Give me a break. The history of the India trade. And then you look at the history of the Brits when they were, when they got their hands on Hong Kong, when they were dealing with China and they were flooding them with opium. And you look at, how we had an opium problem here and we're in Afghanistan. Here's the thing. We fight for our democracy to make it better. Renee Good was 37 years old and all she was doing was watching and observing, which every citizen under the Constitution is supposed to observe. She didn't violate the Constitution. She didn't break laws. And then she tried to get away. Now here's the other kicker. When they pulled her over, you can hear the recordings. The first guy called her a fucking bitch. How good is that going to be? He was already mad at her before he pulled her over. And then when she had rolled the window down, she had words of peace. She wasn't cocky. She was just being a young mother who was concerned about her democracy. And for that, she was murdered. She was targeted. They targeted this woman, I'm pretty convinced. And they're going to lie to you, and they're going to tell all the morons out there that want to believe, well, she used her car as a weapon. These guys are armed tooth and nail. They used their car as a weapon, blocking her off. She wasn't trying to run over officers. She was trying to get away from a very dangerous situation. And if you have people that are armed, and this happens all the time because people of color have been getting killed by the cops for just trying to get away, and they're shooting them, and then they try to justify it. Well, he should have submitted. When you are trying to survive and live, you got these rednecks out there that got their guns that are threatening the government saying, come on, January 6th. They had armed people standing by. January 6th, the police were told to stand down. Okay? January 6th, the police were told to stand down. On January 6th. So think about that for a second. The police were told to stand down. The mob was using bear spray. Wonder where the ICE people got the idea from bear spray? Can we say January 6th insurrection? All the guys that were pardoned? All the guys that were pardoned. What do you think about that? bear spray. And now they're using it. ICE is now using that bear spray. All those guys were pardoned by the insurrectionists in chief. Oh, I'm sorry, by the current president. They lie, they lie, they are lying. Minneapolis, Minnesota, and all you other cities, stand tall, do it legal. If they bring 1,000, you bring 10,000. If they bring 10,000, you bring 100,000. Do it peacefully. Be organized. You don't need the violence. You're just observers. Now we know that they got some of their Nazi heads that want to come to certain cities and create trouble. They do this. These are his people. These are Trumpers. These are your MAGA. These guys that want to be Nazis, that want to put everybody down, that want to be racist, that want to be hateful. These guys that want to bring an end to the world. Selling out, as my friend says, their children for the apocalypse. Because they think a white Jesus is going to come save them after they've already condemned themselves. What a joke. And he's got to have blonde hair and blue eyes. Ooh, eugenics. Wait, Hitler? Aryan nation? Ooh, Christ is an Aryan? Is that what they really think? That he hates everybody and that nobody has value except for white people with blonde hair, blue eyes? Help me out with this one, guys. Help me out with this one. Because I'm really trying to understand where they get this logic from. All right, so I'll tell you what I want to do is that I want to play a little bit of the shooting. Check this out.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my God! What the f? What the f? You just what the f did you do?
Okay, so if you notice, there was a car that was blocking her. You can see that her wheels are turned, but you also can see that the officer swings around from right to left. If she was trying to run him over, she wouldn't have turned her wheels completely to the right. All she had to do was just slant them towards the left, and she would have taken him out. The very interesting thing about this is that not only was she trying to get away, this officer fires like 3 shots. They're all headshots. We're not trying to put out tires. We're trying to kill her. We're trying to shoot her in the head. Then you have the other cops. There's nobody telling this guy to stand down. They intentionally targeted this woman. Renee Good's mate stood toe-to-toe with them. And she had a lot to say. And she could have been the one that they actually arrested, but that wasn't it. They wanted Renee Good. You tell me, she had to be targeted. I believe they targeted her, okay? I really, really believe. Hey, let's take a look at the ICE camera.
New video into the newsroom shows moments before a federal agent fatally shoots a woman in Minneapolis. That footage was recorded on an ICE agent's cell phone just before 37-year-old Renee Good was killed during an encounter with immigration officers.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of
The video from Alpha News shows the perspective of the ICE agent getting out of his car and then taking video of Good's vehicle and her license plate. Another woman approaches the ICE agent, and that's when you hear a different federal officer yell at Good to get out of her car. Good starts to drive away, and that's when the federal agent in front of her car fires his weapon. One day after the deadly ICE shooting in Minneapolis, another incident involving federal immigration agents that happened in Portland. Portland police say that a man and a woman were shot during a traffic stop outside a hospital after agents said that the driver allegedly tried to strike them with his vehicle. Both victims were taken to the local hospital. Their conditions remain unknown. The FBI is leading the investigation. Today, protests across the country.
Okay, so snuck in another shooting. I know, I'm being bad. So let me tell you something. As you could see, we have a little bit of the extra footage that they were showing earlier, where Renee was actually engaging them in conversation. And for what you could catch of it, it was very positive. You know, she had a smile, and she probably, you know, is used to having that disarming smile, you know. And in this case, because she was targeted, they weren't going for it. So we showed you one angle, then we showed you an angle from the actual camera that one of the ICE guys was wearing. So it again, you know, this gets really interesting. I kind of like to hear what Jimmy Kimmel's take on it, because I'm like I said, I'm playing a lot of different stuff, and I want you guys to hear all these things that are going on. Check this out.
Cheers on, you know, this is one of those nights where it's hard to do a show like this. It's hard to find things to laugh at, and this is one of those nights. You know, terrible things happen every day. Sad things happen, tragedies, cruelty, injustice, etc. And in most situations, it's just a bad part of life. But what do you do when something terrible happens and a big group of people, including those who are running our country, tells you it didn't? They tell you you're not seeing what you clearly see. Are you supposed to just accept it and move on, go about your day? What do we do? I mean, you all know what happened in Minneapolis yesterday. And if you haven't seen the video of what happened, you should watch the video, because as horrible as it is to see a woman shot by a person who's sworn to protect us, it's important for us to know what happened and what is happening, because if we don't, it's definitely going to happen again. And, you know, there used to be a baseline of truth that doesn't seem to exist anymore. And there used to be a baseline of decency, like when, let's say, a beloved director and his wife were murdered allegedly by their own son, a leader would either say something nice or say nothing at all. And those days are gone. Maybe not forever, hopefully not forever, but for now they're gone. We now have the full force of the White House and the commentators who have decided that their job is to support anything and everything their leader says and does, trying to convince us that a mom who just dropped her 6-year-old off at school was part of a left-wing terror effort.
Mr. Kimmel had a lot to say, but it was mostly about decency. And barbarians don't know anything about decency. The only decency you're going to get out of a barbarian is probably a sarcastic joke. And so, you know, these are the things, again, that we're dealing with. And so, you know, you have all these lies that are out there, and they're trying to tell you that she's a terrorist, and, you know, she's a domestic terrorist. And I'm like, who makes up this kind of stuff? They already have the judgment. They can see with their own eyes, but like the Nazis, they're trying to tell you what it is that you're supposed to see as if you don't have a brain. Renee Good was murdered. She was murdered. I believe she was targeted. And the guy that targeted her has a GoFundMe page. IB Times in the UK is reporting he's already made over $500,000 off of the death of this young mother, unarmed, concerned about human rights, constitutional rights, concerned about her democracy. The power right now in the White House calls ICE, whatever you want to call them, insurrectionists, pardoned criminals, just like the guy who has 34 felonies sitting in the White House. That's what you call white privilege. You can be a criminal, a known criminal, a dangerous narcissist, and still be president of the United States. And you want to know why our democracy is in trouble? Wow. Oh, let's hear from your president.
The people, my people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
He wasn't kidding, folks. Renee Good is an example of that. He could shoot somebody, still be president. They would still vote for him. And he did. And some kids just lost their mother. Many people lost their loved one. While he still having, he's going ahead with his assault on American democracy. And he's trying to be an imperialist. Everything's on the table as far as whatever he can take. Head grifter in chief. And this is what they voted for. And I personally don't really care about him at all. But when I saw that young mother get killed in broad daylight in front of everybody, and his little drones come in and lie about what you saw, they get away with it over and over again, which they have. They killed a whole bunch of people, or shot a bunch of people in 2025. They're bombing little fishing boats in Venezuela. Oh, they're carrying drugs. We don't know. There's no due process on anything. First time he was in charge, became president, putting little kids in cages, and then he could send them somewhere else where they could put them in cages. Total brutality. No law. They talk about rule of law. It's not rule of law. All they want to do is just use the force of law. And it's not even law. They just want to use the force. If he could, he'd rename this country the United States of Trump. And I wouldn't have a problem with it if the guy had a sense of decency in regards to democracy and humanity. But the devil's spawn is anything but humane. And those idiot drones that are with him, wow, I don't know what to say about that, These cats are scary. And we got the Epstein thing going. The guy's been Epstein's friend for, first it's 14, then it became 10, then he was like, oh, well, I didn't really know him that well. And his behavior, yeah, he had some, rape cases thrown out. Money can do that. I'll let you figure that out. But if he was hanging around a guy who was pimping out little children, young girls, and making sport of it, making a lot of money, this guy is around him 10 to 14 years and he doesn't know. And all kinds of pictures that popped up with him and, Epstein and the little girls and all of that. And yeah, they tried to scrub it. And those aren't my pictures. Somebody took those pictures. Somebody out there took those pictures is still alive too. But remember the way he believes, the things that he talks about casually, like grabbing them in the pussy. It's like, oh, that's locker room talk. Maybe that was locker room talk for real young men that just didn't have a clue. I don't know. I mean, to me, it sounds like a person that hates women. That's what it sounds like. Oh, shall we revisit that?
And you say, and again, this has become very famous in this video, I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything. That's what you said, correct?
Well, historically, that's true with stars.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by the pussy?
Well, that's what it's. If you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
And you say, and again, this has become very famous in this video,
Yep. So, he tells you everything that he's about. And then once you respond to the fact that he's told you what he's about, he's angry. Because he told on himself. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And who is ICE again? We know who ICE is. We know that a good number of ICE are the insurrectionists. We know that they're made up of Proud Boys and probably some of these Nazis and all these guys. I mean, you can see them with the bear spray, and the bear spray is the same thing that the insurrectionists were using. What happens if the opposition that they're going after, they have bear spray? You can spray them back. Then they're going to be like, well, he pulled out bear spray, so we shot him. Well, you pulled out bear spray. Don't get caught up in the spectacle. The spectacle is about making you react in a way that makes you look bad so that they can justify their barbarism, their criminality. They want to justify it. So you need to pay attention if you're going to protest to what your strategy ought to be. Because now we know that they will kill you and then try to seek some type of immunity, try to get away with it. And most likely he'll probably try to pardon them even if they go to jail. The reason why him and Hegseth went and belittled all those generals, because they wanted the criminals in the military to know that they're going to be supported by the Trump administration. And why? Because there were certain bases that got in trouble because they were importing and exporting illegal drugs. Yes. What timing? He wants to build his own army. That's why the funding is going to ICE and he's cutting funding to other sections of the military. He wants his own army. Do you think he wants to get out? He doesn't want to get out. I'm sure Elon Musk said, hey, even if your body dies, we'll just transport your consciousness into whatever, and you can just keep being the evil man that you've always been. I'm sure they've made some type of deal where, he thinks that he's going to have his life prolonged. Wow, Renee Good was murdered because she's a real patriot. All she wanted was to preserve democracy. All she wanted was to see humanity and not barbarism in her town. She wants to know that her tax dollars went to making things better instead of putting an evil tyrant in power and empowering the super wealthy to just split the globe up. You guys better think about where you're buying product from, who you're buying from, because you're funding their control over you. He's already given them your tax money. He's giving them your tax money. He's cutting all of your benefits that are relative to democracy, to people who have actually worked to keep this country going and build it so far. He's killing all of that. And he's telling you, you don't matter. He's going to keep attacking young people. He's going to keep cutting off medicine and Medicare from older people, except himself. They want to take the population down. They want to use your tax dollars to do it. And they don't want any pushback from you. They just want to crap all over you and then say, open your mouth and tell me it's good. And that's what they're doing. These guys are evil. And these guys that call themselves Christians, we got Buddhist monk walking about 2,000 miles for peace. Let's get those Christians out there. Let me see you walk the country for peace. Oh, wait a minute. You guys are too busy wearing ICE uniforms and going after the poor. Going after the disadvantaged. Real Christians better rein these fake Christians in real fast. Because who they're actually killing is probably Christians. Just like the whole thing in Palestine. They didn't tell you how many of those Palestinians were Christians. Israel's just wiping them out. And he's like, well, we got to support Israel. No, you don't. Not when they're murdering and killing. It's one thing if they want it to be lawful and go after the folks that murdered, all those Israeli citizens. I believe in that. That was crazy. But we know whoever started it hedged a bet that the Israelis that were murdered and the Palestinians that were going to be murdered were going to be collateral damage for their agenda. And why is Trump so cozy with Netanyahu? They send the Mossad out to South America to train the white apartheid farmers, how to, take control of anybody that's trying to get their land back because they inherited illegally through apartheid. Oh yeah, Israel's involved in that. Oh, and guess what? ICE is being trained in Israel. And then they're being planted right back on our streets to go against us. I don't think Netanyahu cares about our democracy. I'm not sure what he cares about. We know he's trying to avoid prosecution, just like his buddy who ran from those 34 felonies. Right now we got the worst of the worst all coming together, trying to appear as if they're an angel of light. But they just wreak destruction. And they reap destruction everywhere they go and everything they touch. And then they hide behind somebody else's good efforts. And they want to throw their name on there as if it was the Kennedy Center. And they did this. No. They wanted to own it. Renee Good was trying to do good. Trying to raise her children. Trying to help other people. Trying to help the weak. Trying to help the disadvantaged. And they penalized her. They targeted her. They profiled her. They knew exactly who they were getting. You can see the video so many times you can tell it's murder. They can try to spin it all they want. It was murder. And then we have the media on the lies.
The deadly incident that took place in Minnesota yesterday occurred as a result of a larger, sinister, left-wing movement.
These vehicle rammings are domestic acts of terrorism.
This was an act of domestic terrorism. These were, it appears to be, paid agitators.
This is a woman who was in severe crisis. She lived a very sad and very chaotic life.
It is clear that she tried to use her vehicle as a weapon, mow over an ICE agent.
A huge SUV with a lunatic woman who guns the gas pedal.
When you point a car at somebody, it's no different than pointing a gun. And when you step on the gas, it's the same as pulling the trigger.
The officer, I think justifiably, shooting her in the face.
It's time for Americans to say enough. And if you get in the way of the government repelling a foreign invasion, you're going to end up just like that lady did yesterday.
Yeah, she's a terrorist. She had issues. Oh, man. The list went on and on and on. We are in the 24th hour. years looking at the death of American democracy. Renee Good paid with her life. Paid with her life. She was murdered because she cared about democracy and the rights of others. She didn't have a gun, trying to get away. He shot her in the head. 3 shots. Let's not shoot a tire out. There's snow on the ground and ice. Blow out a tire, she ain't going nowhere. No, but they decided to kill her. We're going to silence her. And twice, they called her a fucking bitch. Twice. You can hear it. Renee Good smiled at them. She said, I'm not mad at you. She smiled. I'm not mad at you. Before the exchange, the verbal exchange, which really they weren't talking to her, the guy goes, fucking bitch. And then shortly after that, she rolls the window down and she's talking to him. And then her mate was talking to her. Now her mate was like straight up, hey, we ain't afraid of you. We'll be here. You can keep taking your pictures. We're going to be driving the same car with the same plates. So, you know, keep coming out. You're going to see us. Because nobody thought they would murder an innocent mother in broad daylight. Kennedy assassination happened the way that it happened was because the powers that be wanted to send a message to their people. These guys that killed Renee Good are sending a message to the people of the United States. And they're trying to send the same message, that we're so powerful, that we can get away with it and we can tell you what you saw. Think about that for a second. This young mother lost her life because she cared about democracy. Lost her life because she cared about democracy, okay? I'm just like, oh, it's a left-wing thing and blah, blah, blah. Let's hear what Joe has to say.
Those are law enforcement officers being physically attacked. By this standard, would any of those officers be justified in shooting and killing the people causing them physical harm?
Every single situation is going to rely on the situation those officers are on. But they know that when people are putting hands on them, when they are using weapons against them, when they are physically harming them, that they have the authority to arrest those individuals.
The president pardoned every single one of those people.
And make sure that they're getting justice for their actions going forward.
President Trump pardoned every single one of those people.
And every single one of these investigations comes in the full context of the situation on the ground.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem pressed yesterday on the apparent double standard for Capitol Police officers during the January 6th riot and ICE agents currently on the ground
she says
in U.S.
it
cities.
Depends on the situation on the ground. Well, does that mean it's okay if police officers have the hell beaten out of them because they buy into a bullshit conspiracy theory? I don't see that in police regulations. I don't see that in ICE regulations. I don't see that in any regulations in Washington, D.C. But people that were beating the hell out of police officers, people who were found guilty by a jury of their peers for beating the hell out of police officers on January 6th, pardoned.
All right, so we have Joe using just a little bit profanity, which we know that that's not what he does. He's trying to be as professional as possible. His wife is like, come on, man. You know we can't do that. But she also understands the severity of what has just happened. This America that we have right now needs to make a real decision on which direction they want to go in. Because the direction we're headed in right now means the end of everything. There's no way that these guys are going to be able to maintain this type of appetite for destruction. It will be the end of this country. There will be nothing left for these wealthy people to fight over, because eventually they're just going to force everybody to destroy each other. America has nukes. China has nukes. North Korea has nukes. Rumored the Vatican may have nukes. Right? India has nukes. Pakistan has nukes. Rumor that Egypt has nukes. South Africa has nukes. And then there's all those nuclear suitcases out there that came out of the fall of the Soviet Union. And then there's stuff we just don't know about. And then there's dirty bombs. There's a lot of dirty bombs. Okay? Oh yeah, let's go back to what the king had to say recently.
Do you see any checks on your power on the world stage? Is there anything that could stop you if you wanted to?
Yeah, there's one thing. My own morality, my own mind. It's the only thing that can stop. And,
Not international
and that's
law.
very good. I don't need international law. I'm not looking to hurt people.
Do you feel your administration needs to abide by international law on the global stage?
Yeah, I do. I do. But it depends what your definition of international law is.
No one can stop him except his own morality, and he has none. So, and so, guess what we get? Fifth Avenue, shoot somebody, still be president.
I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking president. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Whoa!
Yeah, I just got to play certain things because we need to keep looking at these things. We need to see them. She was murdered. She was targeted. She was murdered. She was targeted. Oh, let's talk about the kill shot.
And even when you see her turning her steering wheel sharply to the right to avoid him. Look at this. Look, that's what Kristi Noem called a domestic terrorist. Right here. The last seconds of her life, she's sharply turning her steering wheel to the right to avoid the ICE agent, who, of course, is standing to the side of the car now because she's turning sharply to the right.
And slowly.
And slowly. And he shoots her despite the fact she's turning sharply to the right. And then, just for good measure, shoots her at what appears to be at her head at point blank range from the side of the car. When he's at the side of the car. When he's completely out of danger. Completely out of danger. And again, who's justifying this? Yeah. What ghouls are justifying this? Is that where America is? Because I'll guarantee you this. If there was a 27-year-old Iranian mother that was trying to drive out of an area of protest, and a member of Iran's security forces stuck a gun to the side of her car and shot at her head in point blank range, oh my God. The world would be up in arms. And Donald Trump, as you will see when we play the clip, would use that as justification for invading Iran. But here you actually have people calling this woman a domestic. I mean, who raised you?
Yeah.
I've got to ask that question. Who raised you to celebrate the shooting of a 27-year-old mother whose last words were 37-year-old, whose last words were conciliatory, and who was trying to leave the scene? And not just shooting from the front side of the car, but just for good measure, aiming twice in her window at the side for 2 kill shots. Look at shot 2. Side of the car, leaning in to shoot at her. And then look at shot 3. Again, completely clear of the car, still aiming to shoot at what appears to be her head.
Okay. I think that we have submitted enough visuals to give anybody with half a brain a clear picture of what has occurred. Renee Good murdered. She was killed for just being an observer, caring about other human beings. Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, you're ground zero. You need to stand up, do it lawfully, be organized, do it smart. They bring 1,000, you bring 10,000. You guys need to get tight like that. Everywhere around the country, it is time to protest and get these guys out of office, because it's only going to get worse. And like I said, personally, I don't care about any of these people. But they are attacking the entire world. They definitely are assaulting American democracy. Question is, it has nothing to do with them. How much do you care about your democracy? It's really going to be up to us. Do we want our democracy, or do we want to let them just get away with whatever they want? Because at the end of the day, if we don't stop them, it's going to be the end. Now, they pardoned these guys. This is what you call white privilege. You can, in broad daylight, crap all over your democracy and bring bear spray. Looks like ice, right? Bring bear spray to the party. You can assault law enforcement, not get shot. Black Lives Matter wanted to just march down the street. The president had a hemorrhoid that erupted, calling out the military to make sure they can't march down the street. Can you get any more racist than that? Oh yeah, the kids that they found out that, he wanted to execute some kids that were being accused of rape in New York and didn't rape anybody, and he's like, well, they still should get it. I'm going, this dude is a demon. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He can't spell humanity. He's not humane. He's very evil, but he's just a pawn in all of this too. Like I said, I'm not really interested in him and any of his drones, because the real power has been doing this, and he's still doing their bidding. A lot of stuff that's on his agenda is their agenda. It's just because he seems so much of a spectacle that people lose track of that. And it's easy to blame Trump for everything, but he's not in control. There hasn't been a president that's been in control. Maybe the Bushes. Well, Bush won. But there's been a president who's actually been in control probably since the Spanish War. And that might even be, pushing it. I'm Michael P. America, and what I'm trying to tell you is we need to make a decision. We're in the 24th hour, and if we don't stand up for democracy, there's going to be much more Renee many more Renee Goods out there that are going to be murdered. And ultimately, the black folks, you are on the agenda. You know that. They're just working their way to you. If they get everybody to accept their brutality, and that's part of going after the immigrants and throwing them in cages and just shipping them off to God knows where. If they get everybody to be okay with that, get you desensitized, then all the atrocities are wide open that they can commit here at home. And like I said, the faces that you see, they're not the real power. They're just dumb enough to take the blame for it. They think they're that smart. But every time they interview, you can see how dumb they really are. They haven't learned anything, except for they hate intelligence. They hate wisdom. They hate humanity. And they hate the truth. And the truth of the matter is that if we don't stand up as Americans for our democracy, we're not going to have one. Your kids aren't going to have one. Your kids aren't going to have a future. These guys are attacking American democracy on every level. They bring chaos. That is a war strategy. Nazis love it. A lot of it's in the Hitler playbook, but it goes even further than that. So I'm Michael P. America. Thanks for joining me. I know I got a little bit long-winded, but I'm really upset about the fact that Renee Good was murdered. She's murdered in one of my hometowns. And that ICE decides that Minnesota is ground zero for their Nazi takeover for the Fourth Reich. You need to stand up. Do it lawfully. I know they're not going with the law, but they're creating spectacle, and they want to use spectacle to convict you. They're going to assault you so that you're going to overreact, and then they're going to try to justify their barbarism. Same thing that we went through during civil rights. Black people have seen this before. This is nothing new. This is what they do. Question is, what are you going to do, America? I'm Michael P. America. Thanks for listening to me. Rise up.